Hi everyone, my name is Michael Diaz, and I'm your instructor for today's NotebookLM module and mini activity. I'm very excited today to speak to you about NotebookLM, a new and revolutionary AI resource that summarizes your class readings, class presentations, other, YouTube videos on learning material, summarizes these sources and compiles it into different learning formats, such as podcasts, such as study guides, such as personalized quizzes, mind maps. It really changes the way in which you as students are able to study and understand this complex material. I'm going to give you a brief outline of how this video is going to be structured. First, I'm going to begin by explaining a little more about what NotebookLM is, how it functions, how AI expands its capabilities, how you as students are able to leverage this tool in this upcoming academic year in your classes, and how might you be able to import some of your own class materials and explore some of these new features. I'm also going to talk about how co-intelligence aligns with NotebookLM to help you learn as a creative partner. Next, I'm going to move on into showing you a final product of a sample notebook that I created using NotebookLM to kind of give you a glance at what your final notebook should look like after you complete this activity on your own. Next, I'm going to go through a detailed step-by-step walkthrough on how you can complete this mini activity and create your own personalized notebook at the end of our session. Lastly, I'm going to close by instructing you to submit your notebooks onto our discussion board to gain credit for completing this module and this mini activity. This is a very exciting tool. I wish I had this in college when I was studying, so I'm really excited to share this knowledge and activity with you all. So with that being said, let's get started. Perfect. So let's begin. As you can see, I've navigated here to the Introduction to NotebookLM tab on our Canvas course. And here I'm going to talk to you a little bit about NotebookLM in more detail. So NotebookLM is a generative AI tool that summarizes class material like readings, presentations, any videos that you might have learned in class, and summarizes this material and centralizes it in one place. So you can kind of think about NotebookLM as your own personal learning assistant that helps you save time reviewing class material, creates quizzes, creates new formats of learning, and in different ways. So like visually with mind maps, auditorily with podcasts. Essentially, it helps kind of unwind some of the stress of turning that dense material into real meaningful study formats. And why would we use this AI? NotebookLM understands that students need assistance in summarizing these notes because it does so instantly with a click of a button. And it's really fascinating. We'll see later in this mini activity how this is actually done. The ability to create tailored quiz questions and outlines and actively prompting this with the chat feature on NotebookLM. Now, we talk a lot about co-intelligence and how this works in AI. Well, as it applies to NotebookLM, you can think of AI as a learning partner, not a shortcut. Although you do save time studying and formatting your notes, NotebookLM acts as a learning partner, right? So you're able to engage with the AI. And if you want it to test you on this knowledge that you're learning, you can simply prompt the AI and say, hey, create a 10 question quiz. I want to test my knowledge. And in that way, the AI is working to make meaning with you and ensure that you're on the right track in terms of understanding the material. It provides multiple ways to engage with your notes, and it reflects co-intelligence, right? A balance between your judgment and the AI support. So, as students, what do you use NotebookLM for? Well, like we said, summarizing your notes and slides so you don't have to reread everything, create quiz questions to test yourself, and really organizing all of your content in one place with both visual and audio formats. My personal experience in college took me a lot of time to study, especially if I was cramming for finals, and I was looking for information that was presented both in my class and then also online. And so what I really like about NotebookLM is it allows you to take that those specific sources that your professor or your teacher provides in class and allows you to really hone in and focus on studying only that material, since inevitably only that material is going to be included in your exam, right? And so it allows for more of that tailored support where you don't have to go online and search up all these general sources to learn more. Um, it creates accessible, student-friendly study tools, and it's just very easy to use, very user-friendly. You don't have to be an expert to use this tool. And with that being said, I want to transition now to showing you what a final product, your final notebook should look like once you complete this mini activity. Awesome. So as you can see here, I've logged into my NotebookLM account. And I just want to preface by saying NotebookLM only allows you to um, use its tool if you sign up with a non-EDU account, so a non-education account. But we'll go through that in a little bit. I've logged into my NotebookLM. I want to show you my final product, my final notebook that I created here. So qualitative research notes. Let's go ahead and take a look. Awesome. So as you can see, I'm now on my dashboard, and as you can see, I've uploaded two sources on the left. So 5 qualitative research methods, a YouTube video, and a sample course reading that my professor would have, provided in class. Now, what I want you to know is based off of these two sources, I've been able to generate things like a mind map, a study guide over here, and a podcast. Here I have this chat feature that allows me to prompt it to quiz me and whatnot. But as you can see here, you can see my study guide that I was able to create just based off these two sources. And it's very comprehensive. Starts off with a quiz, essay questions. Let's say I can expect a few essay questions on my final exam, so it's preparing me in that way. I have a glossary of key terms. Let's say, I'm not really familiar. Here are the keywords I should know going into that exam and whatnot. So that's the study guide. Now, I do want to say, when we complete this mini activity in our next segment, you have the opportunity to actually upload your real life, your own classroom materials. So let's say, you completed a sociology class and you have real sociology class readings or maybe YouTube videos that your professor provided you all. You have the opportunity to really personalize this mini activity and upload those actual sources that you used. And if you don't have some of those sources, you can use these same two that we provided for you. But here, you'll be able to look at a mind map. So here, we have qualitative research methods. Let's say I'm unfamiliar with what those methods are, and let's say specifically focus groups is what I struggle with the most. Well, here I know that focus groups are informal techniques. They typically last 2 hours, and usually it revolves around 6 to 9 users. Now, what about user interviews? Well, I know here from this mind map that user interviews are the most common. It's typically structured in a one-on-one conversation. But I think what's important for you all to know is in your final notebook, all of this information, so all the information in this mind map actually comes from the two sources that you provided it. So you can only imagine, how detailed this information really must be because it's coming straight from the source, which is the beauty behind NotebookLM. Here we have a podcast that we can listen to.
All right, let's unpack this. You've probably encountered
This lets researchers tailor their approach, probe deeper. It's like being a detective. You follow the clues as they emerge.
instead of sticking to a fixed script.
So
Personal
really cool.
histories, their perspectives, especially when exploring sensitive topics where building that rapport is crucial.
Okay, so interviews give us someone's story.
So, in your final notebook, you'll be able to interact and engage with all of these different sources that you've created. based off of the sources that you uploaded to NotebookLM. So I don't want to give too much away. That's just a little sneak peek of what your final notebook should look like. And I'm really excited. So let's go ahead and continue now with a step-by-step detailed walkthrough of how you can complete this own mini activity for yourself. Great. So let's move on to beginning this mini activity. As you can see here, I've navigated to the step-by-step how to use NotebookLM tab in our Canvas course. And I'm just going to do a very detailed walkthrough of how to complete this mini activity on your own. So the first thing we're going to have to do is have you all create a NotebookLM account. Now, to reiterate, you can only access NotebookLM using a personal Google account. So any Google account that's not affiliated with a school or does not end in .edu. So I've hyperlinked the website here, so go ahead and click it and we'll navigate here. I've already logged into my account, so please return to this video once you've completed your account setup on NotebookLM. Great, so you all should be up to date and have completed your account setup. So now let's go ahead and get started with this mini activity. So as you can see here, we're going to click on Create New Notebook to create a new notebook for ourselves. And you're going to be met with this screen. This looks a little overwhelming, so what I'm going to do is click the X button here just to close it out, and we can go back to it at a later time. So as you can see, our notebook is blank, and really how we get started is by adding sources. And so again, depending on if you have classroom materials that are personal to you, that you've used in the past or are currently using these materials, go ahead and upload those materials if you want more of a personalized notebook for yourselves. But for simplicity purposes, we've also provided you all with two sources that you can use to complete this mini activity. So you will find these two sources in our step-by-step guide here. So if you click this link here, you'll be met with this Google document. So go ahead and navigate to that link, and please return to this video once you're at this Google document. Excellent. So you should all now be at this Google document. And what we're going to do is one by one, we are going to copy each of these links to upload these sources onto our NotebookLM notebook. So I'm going to copy this video. As you can see, it's a YouTube link. So when I return back to my blank notebook, I'm going to go ahead under sources and click add with the plus sign. Now, because this is a YouTube video, I'm going to navigate under link and click on that YouTube icon where it's going to present a little box to paste my YouTube link. So what I'm going to do is just copy and paste this here and then click insert. And as you can see, my YouTube video on 5 qualitative research methods has successfully uploaded. So please go ahead and add that first YouTube video link and return to this video once that is complete. Great, so let's go ahead and add our second source. So we'll return back to this Google document and let's copy this other PDF reading. Go back to our notebook, same process. Click add under sources. But instead, this time under link, we're going to go ahead and click website because this is a PDF reading and it's considered a website. So after we pasted this link, we're going to click insert on the bottom right. And as you can see, it's going to upload our PDF reading. So please go ahead and add your second source and return back to this video once that is complete. Awesome. So you should all have, have uploaded your sources successfully. And really, now is where the fun begins because now we're able to explore some of these new learning formats that can, uh, transform our learning material. So the first one I want us to explore is creating a study guide. Now, before we get started, actually, I want you to understand that all of the learning formats that we will be making today directly derive from the information from these two sources on the left. So it's very personalized, it's very specific information that we will be learning. But before then, I want us to kind of get into this mentality. So I want you to imagine that you're a high school student or a college student, depending on, your where you're at now in your journey. Imagine you're cramming for a final exam in qualitative research methods or whatever, subject your sources reflect. Imagine you need to cram for this final exam and you're looking for more efficient ways to study, and you've just learned about NotebookLM. So this is going to be very exciting, and in many ways, it's a real life example. Like in college, I remember there was an exam that I had to really cram with, and if I had NotebookLM, I would have really felt more supported and would have been able to really study more efficiently. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with creating a study guide based off of the sources that we uploaded. So in order to create a study guide, we're going to go and hover over this reports button, and it's going to bring a drop-down menu where you can find the study guide. So as you can see, it says generate an AI study guide based on your sources. So we're going to go ahead and click that, and once we click it, it's going to instantly start creating a study guide in seconds. So you can see it says based on two sources, generating no. Great. So like I said, matter of seconds. Let's go ahead and check out the study guide and what it's included. So as you can see, it's a very comprehensive study guide, and it begins with a quiz. It instructs us to answer each question in 2 to 3 sentences. So what is the primary distinction between qualitative and quantitative data according to the source material? So it goes back and it tells you that this information is going to be found in these source materials. It provides you with a check to validate that data. Provides a quiz answer key so you can go back and test your understanding. Essay format questions, right? So let's say in our final exam, the professor says, hey, just keep in mind there's going to be 2 to 3 essay questions that you might be tested on. So it provides us with some of those samples to already begin practicing those essay questions. Now let's say I'm cramming for this exam, right? Like I don't even know what key words I should know in this subject. Well, it provides you with a comprehensive glossary of key terms. So even if I have no idea about qualitative research methods, these are the main ideas that I should know going into this exam. So as you can see, focus groups, in-depth interviews, informed consent, participant observation, and whatnot. So very comprehensive. Now this is one source, one learning format that we can learn. Maybe, I don't study the best using a traditional study guide. Maybe I learn best looking at a mind map and, getting much more detailed information in all these different subjects. So what I did was I went ahead and hovered over this mind map button. And so I want to give you actually the time to complete the study guide on your own. And please come back to this video once you've taken a look at the study guide that you've completed. And once you come back, we will begin the mind map making process. Great. So you all should have completed the study guide and taken the time to review kind of the material that was presented inside that study guide. And now we're going to move on to exploring the mind map feature and creating your own mind map. So what we're going to do is hover over this mind map button where it says it's going to generate an AI mind map based on your sources. So I went ahead and clicked this button already, and it's provided us with a sample mind map here. So let's go ahead and take a look. So like I was saying, what if you're not the traditional learner and you don't really learn the best looking at a traditional study guide? So maybe a mind map is the best way for you to learn. Well, a mind map is beneficial because it allows a learner to get a deep dive into each one of these subjects. It's broken down in this kind of umbrella array. So let's say, I'm struggling the most with understanding the difference between qualitative versus quantitative. So let's go ahead and click this arrow to learn more specifically about that subject. Okay, so I see primary differences. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So by clicking that square, NotebookLM provides me with a very detailed answer. So primary differences are analytical objectives. So quantitative research seeks to confirm hypotheses about phenomena, and specifically it quantifies. So it relates to numbers. Qualitative research seeks to explore phenomena. It describes variation, explaining relationships. It focuses on the human side. So you can see here types of questions and data obtained and whatnot. So here we have different structured methods. Let's go back to our mind map. So based off of these differences, I know that qualitative explores phenomena, quantitative confirms hypotheses. Now, maybe I'm struggling more with methods and user interviews. I really don't know much about user interviews. Well, from here, I can learn that user interviews are the most common form. It's typically structured around one-on-one conversations. What about in-depth interviews? In-depth interviews are optimal for personal histories, perspectives, and experiences, specifically around sensitive topics. So as you can see, very detailed information, and I can even explore other fields such as ethical guidelines. So what about informed consent? I can click on each one of these squares to learn more about what I should tell participants before they consent to a study, confidentiality protection, and whatnot. So this is another very detailed example of a new learning format you're able to actively use on NotebookLM. Now, I want to present to you, our last learning format tool. So let's say, maybe you don't study the best using a study guide or a mind map. Maybe you're a audio learner. Podcasts are becoming increasingly popular this day and age. And so maybe you learn best by listening um, to your sources, right? So, many people don't prefer to read a physical book. Some people opt for an audiobook. The same way could be applied for learning. And so what I want to do is first give you a break to go ahead and create that mind map on your own and explore those features. And please come back. And after you do, we'll take a deep dive into creating a podcast together. Okay, great. So now that you've had the time to explore the mind map feature, we're going to go ahead and share our last example of a new learning format, which is audio podcasts. So based off these two sources, we have the opportunity to click and hover over this audio overview button where it says here that it will generate an AI podcast based on your sources. Now, honestly, I think this is the coolest learning format on NotebookLM. When I first listened to the podcast that was generated, I was truly like mind blown because the way it sounds so humanistic, so real, I think just changes everything. Before, when I was in college, ChatGPT was barely released, and Now it's, evolved exponentially, but we never had this in college, and it definitely would have helped me study, especially if, um, you know, you have to drive somewhere and you don't have as much time to sit down and read a piece of paper. I can listen to this on that drive. So what we're going to do is click this button and listen to that podcast that it provides us. It'll take a few minutes. Great. So it looks like our podcast finished up being created. And just to keep in mind, this did take around 3 to 5 minutes. So just keep that in mind. Um, so now let's go ahead and take a listen and prepare to be mind blown because this is insane. Okay, let's listen in.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're doing a deep dive into something really powerful: qualitative research methods. Our mission for you listening is to really get how we move past just the numbers, how we uncover the detailed what's and whys of human behavior and experience, getting that full rich story. And to help us out, we've got some great sources. There's a really insightful YouTube discussion from NN Group focusing on practical methods. And then there's a very comprehensive field guide from Family Health International. That one really lays out the core principles and, crucially, the ethical side of things.
Qualitative work. More often there's semi-structure.
Let's go back a little bit here.
Well, fundamentally, it's a type of scientific investigation. It seeks answers to a question, uses systematic procedures, collects evidence. But here's the key bit. It produces findings that weren't determined in advance. They emerge from the data. And often, these findings have relevance, way beyond the immediate study itself.
Okay, so it's not about confirming a hypothesis you already have.
Not primarily, no. It's more exploratory.
Yeah, that's right.
And its real unique strength. It tries to understand the research problem from the perspective of the local population involved. It's about seeing the world through their eyes, essentially.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's why it's so effective for getting culturally specific information, about values, opinions, behaviors, the whole social context they live in.
Okay, here's where I think it gets really interesting. What does it actually tell us? You get these complex sort of textual descriptions of how people experience something, right?
Yeah.
It captures the messy human side.
Exactly. The often contradictory behaviors, beliefs, feelings, relationships, all that stuff that doesn't fit neatly into a spreadsheet.
Is that not the coolest thing ever? That was incredible when I first discovered this podcast feature. It's just so cool the way that based off of information in just two sources, you can create a 20-minute podcast, and it just expands the way in which you're able to learn as a student. So I hope you all found it as cool as I did. I hope you all consider using this kind of learning format or any of the ones that we've mentioned today. But I want to give you the opportunity to go now and explore the podcast feature on your NotebookLM notebook. And please return to this video once you've had the time to do so. Perfect. So you all should have now had the time to explore the podcast feature on NotebookLM. Now, the last thing to complete our mini activity is going to be here, if we return back on the step-by-step guide on Canvas. If you scroll down, you'll find this step 4, test yourself using AI segment, where we are going to copy and paste this prompt to ask the AI to quiz ourselves based on this knowledge. So once we copy that, we're going to go ahead and paste it in this center chat box here. And it's going to create a 10-question quiz for us to test our knowledge. So again, when we talk about co-intelligence, this is really the co-learner aspect of NotebookLM, right? It's not just a tool, it's allowing us to continue learning by testing our knowledge. And it contributes to meaning making. So, first question, what is the primary analytical objective of qualitative research? So it looks like it provides us with a multiple choice question. So A is to quantify variation. I believe that's quantitative research. B, to predict causal relationships. C, to explore phenomena. Or D, to describe characteristics in a population. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and click B, see what it provides me there. It's just a guess. Okay, so it said it was a good attempt, but B is not correct, and it's actually related to quantitative research, not qualitative. So the answer was actually to explore phenomena. So that was the first question. This was the second one, and also one thing I want you to notice, another great attribute of NotebookLM, is if you see these numbers, it actually shows you where it gets its data from. And if you scroll down, you can see that this information is directly from our PDF reading source that we uploaded on the left. The two, if you look at two, source guide, and you scroll down, it's the same PDF reading as well. So very cool. And if you don't want a multiple choice question, you can always prompt it to provide you with a short answer quiz as well. But go ahead now and take the time to copy and paste the prompt on our Canvas course here, and explore quizzing yourself using NotebookLM, and return to this video after. Great, so now you all should have explored this quiz feature and kind of engaged with the chatbot. Now, to complete this mini activity and submit your NotebookLM materials to gain credit for this module, I want to go back to Canvas. And what we're going to do is we're going to navigate to this discussion board under NotebookLM, where it says, "What's your best studying tip with NotebookLM?" Let's go ahead and click that. So in order to get credit for completing this module and this mini activity, what you're going to do is simply create a response to this discussion, and you're going to include some details on what sources you uploaded for NotebookLM, what tool helped you the most, so whether that's the study guide, the podcast, the quiz feature, the mind map, and lastly, how AI will help or has helped you personally learn or prepare better. So once you submit that response to this discussion board, that'll be considered your submission, and you will gain credit for completing this module. All right, thank you everyone. That pretty much sums up this module and this mini activity. I hope you had a lot of fun creating your own NotebookLM, and I really hope you do take away all of the features and the value that NotebookLM could bring to you, so that you might be able to use it in the future, whether you're in high school or in college and beyond. And yeah, thank you so much, and I hope you learned a lot.